Welcome to Many Mistakes Ago. I may or may not have just recorded 18 minutes of me talking until I realized I didn't like it anymore. I feel like this always happens because I'm like, no, this is what I want to talk about, but then I talk about it too much because I talk too much. It's okay, Marissa. We're going to try it again. I have my lovely half-calf coffee that my girlfriend made for me. I'm in my girlfriend's apartment. I'm in the second bedroom because this is where I have my little setup for my desk and all of my things. So essentially, if y'all can hear that, I'm so sorry. That was an ambulance. But basically, I'm going to give y'all the rundown. If you have watched my vlog, you will know that I am slowly moving in with my girlfriend. Very U-Haul of us because we've only been dating since November. It's literally not even been 5 months. But the main reason why we've decided to do it at the time that we're doing it is because we both still have leases. She has her lease here until September, and I have mine till August. However, my lease is driving me insane because I signed it not ever seeing the apartment, and I'll never do that again. Never, never, ever, ever, ever do that again. However, I did that because last year I moved to Texas and I sifted through apartments, and this one was cheap. It was close enough to downtown. I was super happy with the idea of living here. Since I have signed that lease and moved in, there have been 3 different management. And mind you, it hasn't even been a year yet. I moved there June 1st. June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. Not even 10 months because it's the middle of March. I'm not counting all of March yet. So, not even 10 months, and there's 3 different property managers, whatever you want to call it. 3 different owners, whatever you want to call it. There has been a roach problem. Literally infestation. And I know that that happens in Texas. I know that there are a lot of places, and I know that they're going to find their way anywhere that they want to. However, this is a consistent problem. I have lived there, and I feel like it took a couple months for me to finally say I don't see any roaches. But the problem is that it doesn't matter because I was living there for a solid while, and they just pop up wherever, whenever. And the worst part is that I live next to a tree, and said tree always has those big palmetto bugs running up them. And it's disgusting because I'm like, how do they get into my house? This is gross. I live on the 2nd floor, so I know that there is going to be a roach problem, but it shouldn't be this terrible when I'm seeing multiple a day. I've done pest control. I've not done it consistently, I will not lie. But the problem is that I've looked at the reviews just recently, just out of curiosity, and I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know if it was better when I moved last year and whatever property manager was before was just great. I don't know what happened, but I decided to live there. I honestly can say I got what I paid for. It is nice. It looks nice on the inside. It's one of those newer construction. It's not new. Okay, let me rephrase that. You know how in new construction you can tell when things are built very badly, but it looks put together, it looks nice from far away, and then you go in with a deeper eye and you can see all of the little mistakes or the shoddy jobs that they do. That's the apartment vibe. Mind you, the apartments themselves are old, very, very old. I'm talking my living room wall to my bedroom wall has one of those insert fans where it just blows in. I've never seen that in my life. Weird. But anyway, enough talk about my apartment. The main reason is I'm moving. I'm trying to work things out with my girlfriend and see, while we both still have our leases, if we can live together, if we can figure it out. Because if we are, it'll be the ultimate telltale for us to move in together when her lease is up. Our goal is she wants to live closer to work, which I have no problem with because I work from home and I don't care where we live. Um, it's still going to be close to the office space from where I'm working because I can go into office, but it's technically a remote job, if that makes sense. So it's not a problem for me because I work from home. I'm not going to care that much. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, it works for me. I don't care. So with that being said, um, let's get into today's episode because my life is just drama and this is going to be more fun talking about breakups and getting back into the dating pool. Now, I find this ironic because I literally just talked about my girlfriend and how we've been dating for not even 5 months. But this is a good episode, and I've been wanting to do this episode for a while. So, for those of you that don't know, I have a whole list of topics that I want to talk about. And every week I record a new topic, with the exception of some weeks I record like multiple episodes, some I get behind on, like it is what it is. But like every week I have a new topic to talk about. And every here and there with these episodes, I will take notes. I've written notes. I have a little tablet that gives me what I want to talk about, like all the notes that I've written down of like what I want to say on the episode. So I could not tell you. I literally wrote all of these notes in January. So you know I've been wanting to talk about this for a minute. But let's get started because I really want to just dive into this, and I have already taken up like 8 minutes of y'all's time talking about my life. I want to talk about y'all and my experiences and how I can help y'all with my experiences. So let's get into it. Before I start talking about breakups, I want to remind y'all that there is more than just romantic breakups. And we all know this, right? Relationships come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and that can change what the healing process looks like. And regardless of what type of relationship you were in, or regardless of the type of breakup you're going through, whether it's romantic, whether it's platonic, whether it's family, like all types of relationships, all types of breakups still hurt and are hard to work through because essentially it's a loss. You're losing somebody from your life. Whether it feel like an actual loss or not, I don't know, because I've had some friends where I'm like, this isn't really a loss to me because we didn't fit with each other. Like, I didn't feel connected to this person. And there's other friendships where I've been like, this hurts worse than a freaking breakup, like with a romantic partner. Like, what is going on? Now, granted, that feeling came before I knew I was a lesbian, but can still happen no matter what your sexuality is, no matter where you're at in life. I know a lot of y'all have felt that feeling. A friendship can really hurt worse. Like a friendship breakup can really hurt worse than a romantic relationship breakup, depending on how that person is to you, how long you've known each other, what that person means to you. The reasoning is endless. Now, heartbreak going through heartbreak with these breakups, it's always, almost always, going to include grief. And grief and healing and heartbreak, they're not a linear process. They're not linear processes. They can take you on a roller coaster ride. 1 minute you might feel great, the next day or even 5 minutes later, you could have a mental breakdown. You could be crying, you could be reminiscing. It doesn't, it's like the breakups do not dictate anything in your life. Like, you don't realize that like the stages can bounce around. It feels like a roller coaster ride, and it can take any amount of time to work through. There is no set time on grief. You take as long as you need to take to get through something. But the important part is that you are getting through it. I've seen people, myself included, be stuck on a past friendship or relationship and not know how to work through it. That is torture, literal torture, because you're stuck in the past, you can't move on, you are so focused on this other person that you forget about yourself. You're so focused on how they hurt you or how you hurt them. You're so focused on all of that jazz that you're not working through it so that you can come out on the other side. It's almost like a tunnel, if you will, right? This is the end of a breakup, friendship or romantic. And this is you getting onto the other side, and you're just stuck in the middle because you're turned over here, you're looking back, and you refuse to see what's ahead of you. And I've had that mindset, and it's awful because it does nothing for you. You feel miserable because you can't get over this person because you're hyperfixating on them. And everyone's telling you to move on, and you don't know how. The first step, I promise you, is to know that you were okay before them and you're gonna be okay after them. I don't care how long you've been with them. I don't care if you were married. I don't care if you had kids together. I don't care if they were the love of your life. Does not matter. If you were okay before them, you will be okay after them. You're still living. Is it a quality life? I don't know, but you're still living. The matter is you're going to make it a quality life once you get through it. Now keep in mind, grief has many stages, and the denial stage is a big one. It's your biggest hurdle. To get through that stage, you need to own your reality, know your worth, and recognize the benefits or the good that come from the breakup. So think to yourself, what doors will open when I close this one? So denial is facing this way, pretending you're still there, refusing to leave this area, right? You want to stay over here when you need to be going this way, and working through that breakup, working through your emotions, figuring out how to be a human being again. You need to own your reality. I'm no longer in that relationship / friendship. I need to know my worth and know that I'm better than that relationship, that I wasn't the best version of myself. And these are things I've even said to myself. Like when I was with Jeff, for example, I was not the best version of myself. I did not like who I was when I was with him. I did not like how I acted. I started going to therapy. I got a new job. I moved in with my best friend. There were multiple steps that got me through that breakup and that realization that I didn't like men the way that I thought I did, I guess is the best way to put it. Like realizing that realizing that I could never reciprocate love with men. Best way to put it. And also many other aspects, but we're just going to stick with that one because it's a lot to unpack. Owning your reality, knowing your worth, and recognizing the good that comes from not being associated with that person anymore. So with Jeff, I'll give you guys a real life example, because what better way to learn than a real life example? So we broke up in 2022, and we had planned a trip together. I ended up going on that trip solo. Now, this solo trip was a bunch of people, random people who signed up to go on this trip, who were going alone, but going to be in the group, if that's like the best way I can make that make sense. So, my ex and I broke up. I spent about 2 weeks before I went on that trip. I spent about 2 weeks grieving. I hung out with friends. I talked with friends. Nick had also come to visit me, my best guy friend, who now lives in Florida, and he did live in Florida when this breakup happened. So he came up to visit, and I hung out with him. I told him, like, we just broke up the other day, like, blah, blah, blah. We literally had a whole conversation. We ate string cheese together. Like, it was a whole thing. I have never spent so much quality time with my friends than those 2 weeks. Like, they were such quality time. And I don't mean that to burn any other time that we've spent together, but that time, it felt so deep and intense, and it made me realize how much I appreciated my friends, because when I was in a relationship, I didn't prioritize them. And when I got out of that relationship, they were there for me. And I was like, this is what it's like to have supportive friends. Like, it's crazy. It's amazing. And as I've said before, I'm trying to find that here in Texas, and it's very hard because I struggle with keeping that constant communication with people. Like, I've tried like making friends on apps and stuff, and the only good thing that has come from it is my girlfriend. And it's crazy because it's like, that could have been like the greatest friendship of all time if we didn't date, but I also would have been missing out on something. So that's a whole other topic. But going back, those 2 weeks were the most important to me because it made me realize how much I appreciated the friendships that I had built, because your partner is not always going to be there. And your friends might not always be there, but they are there when it counts. Like, I still talk to this day to my friends in Connecticut. I will reply to their stories, like their stuff. Maybe we don't talk every day. Maybe we do. It really depends, because we're busy. We have lives. But, like, if I am coming up to visit, I'm, damn well I'm about to go and hang out with them. Like, there's no doubt about that. But I appreciated that so much. And that was healing in and of itself, because not only did I get to hang out with my friends, but I got to talk with them and process how I was feeling and my emotions about the breakup. And I got to cry and not be judged, because I had no idea what I was feeling. It was a million emotions at once. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I didn't know where to continue my life, because I had been dating this guy for 3 years and I planned a whole future, and I was expecting to be proposed to, and I was like, what am I going to do now? Like, my brain, it was just like my world was spinning, and I was like kind of following like life like a robot, if you will. Like, I was just on autopilot, and then all of a sudden it just felt like it stopped, because there was so many things changing at once. Like I said, I had that breakup, and then I also was starting a new job because I had interviewed for a job while we were still together, and then I ended up getting the job. So now I'm like, well, great. That is another thing on top of it. And then I had the trip planned. So I said, you know what? F it. I'm going on this trip. And I did. And it was the most amazing experience. I must say, I ended up getting COVID and alcohol poisoning, but it was a learning lesson for me. I feel like going on that trip solo was so relieving and healing. And I'm not saying that every time you have a major breakup, you have to go on a solo trip. But if you have the means, girl, do it. Because it feels so good to know that you can do something by yourself. Like, I had never eaten alone, right? And after that trip, I finally went to a restaurant. I went to a freaking Chili's and I ate by myself. Like, tell me why I went on an international trip before I ate alone at a restaurant. I could never tell you. But that's besides the point. The point is that doing things alone really helped me. I felt like I gained a sense of independence and I didn't feel dependent on anyone and I didn't have to lean on anybody. Um, and it felt great. And I'm not going to lie to you, with all of the changes in my life, I wasn't processing my emotions or feelings as much. But when I got COVID, I was forced to stay in my hotel room for a week until I was COVID negative. And I spent that time healing, not only physically, because I literally had COVID, but mentally. I felt like I need to take a breather. I need to figure out what's going on with my life. And I kid you not, I not only was very, very petty and know that that is not me now, I want to throw away that part of my past because I took some digs at him. And like jokes here and there are whatever, but like I was very, very petty on TikTok. Like we're not going there. 2022 Marissa is long gone. But I will say that that's when I started dating girls. I started filtering in Italy just to see what was out there. And this was actually before I got COVID. Or like before I knew I had it. So thankfully I didn't like go out once I knew at all. Like once I knew, I didn't go out. But I had started filtering guys and girls and I was like, oh, like this is interesting. Like I like I like started exploring my sexuality and it was great. And I started to think of the positives of not being with him. And I was like, for the first time, I'm thinking of positives. And I must say, like, I did get over that relationship very quickly. And that should have been the biggest telltale sign of me being a lesbian. And I literally came out, like, probably a month later. Like, I came out in September of 2022. And I was like, yep, this explains so much. Because, like, I read that lesbian master doc and I was like, But we're not talking about that. We're talking about breakups. So I'm trying to keep those things short and like little tidbits. But I come back from Italy and it all just falls on me. Like I start training for my new job. I start talking to people. I filter my dating apps to just females. But this is like before me coming out. So this is still August. I start realizing, I look up the lesbian master doc. I start going on walks. I start going to the gym again. And I really just like turn my life around slowly. Or at least I tried to. Let's go with that. I tried to. I had actually reached out to a guy, or I think a guy reached out to me And this was a guy that I had a crush on many, many years ago. And he wanted to hook up, and I was like, I'm not opposed. So I was like, fuck it. And then when it came down to it, I was like, you know what? Never mind. I deserve better. And I shouldn't be doing this while I'm hurting and going through shit. So, like, you deserve better too. And I just kind of like was done from there. However, I did that because I knew I had a crush on him previously. And I was afraid that I didn't know where that one was going to lead. Like, I didn't know if there was more wanted. However, there was a friend, a guy friend, that I had known for years. And we ended up hooking up. And I felt nothing. I was almost disgusted with myself after. And it had nothing to do with where I was at in life. And it had everything to do with, like, him being a guy. Like, I was like, this isn't fun. Who finds this fun? And it's funny because I started realizing that, like, when I was with men, I was convincing myself that it was fun to be with men, that it was, like, enjoyable. When I could recall so many times of having intercourse with a man that I was with and not enjoying it and not, like almost like going to like a different world because I was like, this isn't it. Besides the point. Let's move on because I feel like I'm going on a tangent in a way that I didn't want to. And I want to keep this on breakups, but like my breakup experience was so different that it's almost hard not to include like everything. Let's get into like what really counts with breakups. So I told y'all that you need to think of the positives. So not only did I discover my sexuality, not only did I start a new job, I was very confident. It was my first work from home job. And I was moving in with my best friend. All of these life changes, it felt positive because I was like, I have so much to look forward to now. I also started to think about going back to school because I was already in school at the time, but I was focusing on it for the first time in my life. I was like, this is going to be my priority. And it felt so good because I was focusing on my career path and my new job. And I also took the time to be single and truly work on myself and my emotions and my reactions to people that I was like, nah. I have so much good to focus on and so much to work on that I don't even need to think about the negative. However, I must say that you need to process. So I process, right? I bought shadow work journals. I know y'all see them. They were all over TikTok. I bought them like a year before they went all over TikTok, but that's besides the point. I started working those shadow journals. I spent time with friends. I went out. I explored and tried new things, like going to parks, going to restaurants. I didn't eat out alone ever again. Ever again. I did go and like pick up orders or like whatever, but like I really didn't eat out because I found that it wasn't fun for me. But it was an experience that I could say that I did. So like I realized that like if I wanted to at this point in my life, I would have no problem going to a bar, grabbing a drink alone. However, if I don't have to, I won't. But I know that I can because I've done it. And just like going to a Chili's, right? I went to a Chili's. I sat at a booth. I ate alone. I ate all of the best things that I loved there. And it was a great time. However, it's not for me. I don't like spending alone time out and about. If I'm going shopping or eating or whatever, I like to enjoy that time with other people. However, if I'm going outside to like a park or something, I have no problem like going there, sitting down, reading, occupying my time however I see fit. And then when I'm home, I have no problem spending alone time. I will spend all the alone time. But I feel like we have, as a society, become so accustomed to being with other people when we're out. So maybe that's just me, but that's how I'm feeling. So maybe y'all feel that way too. But I started reading again, and that felt so good. I went to the park, I read. I went to someplace outdoors, anywhere outdoors, you could catch me reading. It was so great for like the longest time. Um, I read a lot of self-help books, and if it was like late, because like the hours that I worked, it depended on what I was doing, but like sometimes I would like read late at night and I would be like in my bed. But like I love to read. I read a lot of self-help books, poetry books. Um and in that I started to date myself, and those felt really good. It got me through the denial stage, and it got me through like most of my breakup stages, if I'm being honest with you, because I was so focused on bettering myself that the emotional um, grief stages, if you will, kind of ebbed and flowed and didn't take such a high priority in my life, because I allowed myself to feel those feelings, but I didn't allow myself to go cray cray about it. Like it wasn't my only focus. I had so much else going for me in life that like this breakup was just a thing of the past. Um and that like those emotions came and went as I felt them. And it definitely took me a while to work through them, because like I said, I was with Jeff. I had a couple of realizations. I started seeing Anna. I had realizations again. I started seeing Emily. Like, it was a whole thing. Like, it was a lot. Now, going to the grief stages, because I want to talk more in depth about these. How do you get through the anger stage of grief? To get through this, you need to feel it, because I didn't allow myself to feel it at times. And when I was with Anna, there was something that happened. Mind you, I was like cyberbullied and stuff like that during the time of me and Jeff's breakup, because the girl he was talking to was very messy and toxic and chaotic, and would like try to like make fake numbers to like text me and call me and leave me voicemails and stuff. Not a fun time. So I was angry, and I didn't work through that feeling. I only like expressed that feeling. Like I was very angry, I was annoyed, I was frustrated. I ended up getting a new number. But overall, um if you are working through the anger stage, you need to allow yourself to feel it, and you need to allow yourself a safe space in order to feel it, because anger is one of the easiest emotions to feel, as it's a surface level emotion and it's usually outwardly directed. Like when I was angry at this girl. I was angry at him for giving her my number, because I was like, what is wrong with you that you don't respect my privacy? Like, I have not given your number to anyone. So like I just constantly was angry about stupid things that like I should have been able to like solved. Like, I should have been able to solve it a lot quicker, I should have said. But because I had a business, I didn't want to have to change my phone number. So I kept blocking the numbers and I was frustrated and irritated. And every single time something would happen, I would just be like so stressed out and annoyed that I'd be like, ugh, like, leave me alone, you know? And honestly, anger, this sounds so silly, but anger masks other emotions, and sometimes what you see on the surface is not always what's happening behind the scenes. In my case, I was very irritable. I was frustrated because I felt like I couldn't escape, right? And I was like, felt like I was pinned to a corner with this whole situation. But there are times where we use anger to cover sadness or feeling alone or helpless. I know that there have been times where I've been angry to cover up the fact that I feel scared. I feel alone. I feel helpless. Because maybe if I act like a big bad boy, like something's going to change. It's not. Just a little tidbit. It's not. But it's insane that we use anger to mask these emotions that we don't even realize we're masking sometimes. Um, so that's why I say, like, if you are in the anger stage, you need to feel it. You need to allow yourself a safe space to feel it. And you also need to make sure that if it's outwardly directed, you better be careful how you let that information come out. Because if you're angry, go write it in a journal. Go record yourself venting and then delete it. I don't care what you do, but if it's directed at another person, I promise you, it is not going to help you. You are not going to solve a situation angry. You are not going to get anything productively done angry. You're just not. And you need to feel your emotions, take a big, big breath, and remind yourself that these are passing emotions, especially when it comes into the stages of grief. Anger phase will pass. Okay. The next stage is bargaining. This is a stage that a lot of people, I think, struggle with, and me, myself included. It's like the what if stage, right? It's like, or the if only stage. Like, how could I have made this different? Like, if only I had done this, if only I had done that, if only I had said this, if only I had tried harder. What if I did this differently? What if I did that? Like, you're bargaining with yourself, not realizing that the situation has already passed, honey. Your time is gone. You're in the bargaining stage because you are still in some sort of state of denial. You're hoping that that person comes back when they're not. I promise you, they're not coming back. And maybe it's harsh to say that, but like, no matter what you feel, if you think they're the love of your life, they're not coming back. They treated you horribly. You treated them horribly. You guys never were good together. And you just have to kind of sit there and think, like, why am I trying so hard to make it different when that person cheated on me? Why am I thinking that if I did this or did that, like, it would be better? Like, it has no reflection of you. And if it does have a reflection of you, that's when you should be working on yourself, not bargaining and hoping that you would do something different, because clearly you're not in this state of mind to do something different. To get through the bargaining stage, whew, you can question the breakup and, kind of imagine what would happen if things were different. But if you get into that downward spiral of that phase, I promise you it won't do you any good. I think the best way is to work through the what ifs, because some people get stuck in them and struggle with them. I personally have had a couple of those But I also had struggled with other outside factors, aka my sexuality. So that was a huge one for me. And I was bargaining with my sexuality more than I was with my breakup. So I'm not going to speak too much on that aspect because I feel like, unless you guys want it, like, I'm more than happy to, like, kind of talk about it. But when it comes to the what ifs, ask yourself, okay, well, if I did this different, this would have happened. But at the end of the day, you don't know if that would have happened, because you might think that you know somebody, but you only know somebody as much as what they tell you and show you. For example, me and Larissa, right? She only knows what I tell her. She only knows how I act around her. She can have her perceptions of me. But let's say I didn't tell her that I broke my ankle, right? The only way she would know that I broke my ankle is A, if I told her, or B, if she saw the scar. But if I don't tell her, she's not going to know. If she doesn't see it, she's not going to know. It, it's a silly little aspect, example, but it really stands true. Like, I talk about having PTSD and advocating for mental health awareness and suicide awareness, PTSD awareness, and sexual assault awareness. However, if I didn't talk about it, y'all wouldn't know how, like, anything that I've gone through. Because I talk about it, you guys know that I've gone through it. But otherwise, would you know? No. And that's kind of where I think the bargaining never really went well with me, because I was like, well, it didn't work out because it didn't work out. Like, if things would have been different, like, would it really have still ended up the same way? Probably, because we're human beings. Like, if you're not meant for somebody, you're not meant for somebody. And I feel like the harder you try to make things work, to a certain point, you have to think if it's worth it anymore. And with Jeff, it wasn't worth it anymore working things out, because after a while, even though I tried to hold on for selfish reasons, I was also okay with it at the same time. Like, I finally wanted to accept my sexuality and wanted to accept that I needed a hell of a lot more growth than what I currently was in, and I couldn't grow as a person being in that relationship, and I couldn't experience my life being in that relationship. So for me, the bargaining phase never really lasted long, because I was able to see more good going out of that relationship than staying in it. And I think that's where people struggle with the bargaining, is because they feel like they're better in the relationship than not. However, that's where you need to find the good. I promise you, because you will change perspective so quick when you realize, like, all of the things that you could do now that you're single. Like, with one of my previous exes before Jeff, I wrote an entire list of all of the things I was able to do because I wasn't in the relationship anymore. And granted, that was an abusive and toxic relationship. However, it was easy to find the goods, right? Because it was abusive, it was toxic. I couldn't go out, I couldn't hang out with my friends, I couldn't go back to school, I couldn't work 2 jobs without getting cheated on. Like, there were so many different aspects to it. And it's easy when it's easy to spot those, right? But when it's hard to spot the good, that's where you dig. And you dig and you dig, because I promise you it's there, because you're not together for a reason. You're not meant to be for a reason. So dig, figure out why you're bargaining. Figure out, what is the good of me now being out of this relationship? There is good. What is it? Did they cheat on me and I don't have to worry about that anymore? Did they treat me wrong and I don't have to worry about that anymore? Figure it out. If it was a platonic breakup and it's just things didn't work out, why didn't they work out? And find a reason that's a good thing. Because people don't just break up for nothing. You never break up for nothing. Is it distance? Is it communication? Is it love languages? We all have at least one reason. Nobody breaks up for no reason. Like, you don't just break up for no reason and say, oh, I still love them. Okay, why are you broken up? There's a reason, I promise you. Maybe the love isn't there on the other person's end and the other person doesn't get it. Whatever the reason is, there is one, I promise you. Find out that reason and make a million reasons on why you're better now without that person. It might take some work, but that's okay. It might be easy, and that's great because you can find a way to move on when you get through that phase. Now, excuse me, another phase is the depression phase. To get through the depression phase, you need to allow yourself to feel the emotions. Go figure, right? However, you need to make sure that you can get yourself out of the mud, out of the depression, and try to rely on others and support system where you can. Because the hardest thing about grief is staying stuck in a stage. You can stay stuck in multiple stages at the same time, at different times, and it is so infuriating to be in the mud and watching somebody be in the mud. It is so infuriating because you're like, move on already. And you might be saying that to your friend, you might be saying that to yourself, but it really does suck to know that that stage and that being stuck exists, because boy, do I promise you, like, some of these stages can go like that, and some of them you're stuck in for months. But that depression stage will get the better of you. So make sure you feel the emotions, but don't let it take over, because you let it take over, it's not going to be pleasant. There are people that have suffered from suicide, self-harm of any kind, people who purposely start to do toxic things, whether it be substance abuse or getting into an abusive relationship or not treating themselves correctly, accepting less than what they deserve because they feel like they deserve punishment. Whatever the case may be, you need to work through your shit and get to that acceptance stage. No matter what phase you're in, your goal is to get to that acceptance stage. And if you have to treat it like a checklist, like a goal, so be it. Some people are really good that way, right? They have like this mental capacity where they can just work through it that way. Some people need to feel it and work through it that way. Whatever way works for you, whatever way you can, that says, I'm going to get through this, do it. I don't know what that looks like for you. For me, it happened to be more of a to-do list because I started to do things and I was like, wow, I'm working through it. And then once I got through the steps, did I go through the emotions? So it was a little crazy, wild, different way of doing it. But whatever way works for you, I promise you will be the best. Some people need to work through their emotions first. Some people need to go to therapy. That's okay. I hate the stigma around therapy. Freaking go to therapy, because we could all better ourselves. None of us are perfect. We're all human. That's literally why I have this podcast. Many mistakes ago means I've had a lot of mistakes, and guess what? I'm still making them. And that's okay. I'm human. I'm not going to be perfect, and nor do I expect to be, but I'm going to try my best and show up for myself and for others every single day. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to try my best and do my best and be a good human being. And If that's not good enough for other people, I don't care, as long as it's good enough for me. As long as I know that I've put in a solid effort, that I've tried, I've done good things, like as long as I can steer a good head, have a good head on my shoulders, smile at people, not cause drama, like anything, as long as I can stick to the task, do my best, keep my head up, those are my goals, right? We're all just trying to get through life. But let's talk about the acceptance stage, because I want to get into better topics now that we're closing in on the hour here. Acceptance. It is important to accept the reality of the breakup and that it happened. This stage is where you start to understand that the breakup is for the better, and trust that whatever is meant for you will come to you. And you will also come to the realization that you are okay and will be okay. And this is the stage where the healing process and transformation truly begins, because you are finally accepting and you're not stuck in a stage anymore. You're finally able to move on. Now, I'm going to say something because it's very important and because it happens a lot. I've done it myself. But don't jump into a relationship while healing and while dealing with heartbreak. If you are still healing to the point where you still need to focus on yourself, do yourself a favor, get off the fucking dating apps. I'm so for real. I am so tired of people being on dating apps and trying to date, but saying like, I don't want anything. Okay, well, if you want to just FUCK, like, go ahead. But if you're trying to get into a relationship and you're still healing, what are you doing? There are a lot of people like that. I literally had a friend that turned into a friends with benefits that was still healing, and she ended up liking me more than I ever anticipated, more than I was like, what is going on? Because I did like her and I did care about her, but looking back, I'm like, what the fuck kind of mess was that? Because why is she dating and talking to people when she's not okay herself? She's still healing and going to therapy and all this stuff. I'm just going to break it down real simply for y'all, and I know you've heard this one, but hurt people hurt people. And the only way you're going to prevent that is if you take time for yourself and you don't do all that. It's okay to make friends, but if you start to catch feelings or whatever and you're not ready, you better shut that shit down real quick. Real freaking quick. And if you have not healed and you are stuck on somebody and you bring that into your new relationship, it's probably not going to work out. Because honestly, a lot of people think they're ready to move on when they're actually not. I know I'm guilty of that. I have done that all of 2022 and part of 2023. Like, I thought I was ready to move on multiple times. And that's why I was constantly between working on myself and trying to date, and then trying to date casually and not go for anything serious, and then stopping again, and then moving, and then this and then that. Like, you don't realize, like, all of those actions that I had made, those decisions I had made, had effects on other people, not just myself. And I definitely look back at that now and I'm like, holy crap, was I a mess? Because I thought I was ready to move on when I wasn't. Because I thought I was ready to be in a relationship with somebody when I hadn't even worked on myself to the fullest degree. Okay, now I'm going to get into some story time. I'm going to read what I have here as an example, just because I want you guys to understand my point of view. And hopefully this helps, but if it doesn't, you can just stop listening. This is just my example. But after Jeff and I broke up, I wanted to explore my sexuality more in depth, and that's when I met Anna. I rushed into things and fully regretted it as I realized I attracted a non-healed person because I myself was not healed. At the time, I had figured it was because we were toxic together, but it went so much deeper than that. There were so many problems with her and I that I had realized that, like, it wasn't even just her, it was me too. And after Anna, I started talking to Emily. Now, again, this is when I thought she was just toxic and not that I needed to stop dating because I wasn't healed and I was attracting unhealed people. And Emily, to this day, is truly a wonderful person. Again, I am friends with her and she is in a happy and healthy relationship now. And I'm so grateful that things worked out and that we're both healed and we're both happy and healthy and that, you know, we're friends, we're cool. Like, I'm glad that it had a happy ending, let's just say. But I started to realize that even though she was a wonderful person, I was pulling back and I didn't understand it at first. Because I had planned to ask her out around Christmas time and I ended up chickening out. Like, no lie. Like, I had a whole sign for her about asking her out and I went to the Christmas lights with her. Did not ask her to be my girlfriend. And I didn't realize that I was doing this until I sat with my feelings and realized that just because she's a good person and that I like her doesn't mean I need to date her. Did our values align? Somewhat, they actually did. But I don't know what it was. I don't know if something was missing, but I can tell you for a fact that even if we were meant for each other, I was not ready at that time. And even though I thought I wasn't. And that's why I say, like, I'm so guilty of that. Everybody's guilty of that. There's no way that people just sit there for years and wait until they're ready to get into a new relationship. No, because we are so dependent on people that, like, we don't think about being alone because it's frowned upon. Anyway, I'm glad, looking back, that I stayed single because after I broke things off with Emily, I slowly came out of my toxic era and started focusing work inwards and peeling back layers of hurt that went on for years that I didn't even realize were there. This would allow me to be open and available for my future partner and be able to meet their needs. And I also took the time to realize what I wanted in a future partner and what I wanted for a life for myself. I made a non-negotiables list in my, why is it this big? In my phone. I made a non-negotiables list of all of the things that I wanted in a partner. And like some of them were like, okay, this is a non-negotiable, this is non-negotiable. And then some of them were just like, I want my partner to be like this. They don't have to be, but I want them to be like this. Whatever the case may be, right? So I made that list and that was in the summer of 2023. So that was like less than a year ago. And I chose not to settle for anything less. Now, I didn't realize that I would meet Larissa so soon after, and that things would come out the way that they did. But it happened, and it felt great, and we went through with dating each other. I'm going to make a note here that it is important that you only get into a serious and committed relationship if you know that the person will meet your needs and that you can meet their needs too. And this was a big one for me because I didn't quite understand it. But the more and more that I get settled into this relationship and realize what it truly means to meet your partner's needs, it's wild. It's wild, y'all, because I had always thought about my needs being met and worried about those because I was always in unfulfilled relationships, that I never once thought about fulfilling the other person's needs. And even though I constantly thought about it and questioned it, I don't think I ever really did it. And if I did, it was unintentionally. Like, it was like I did the little things because that's what I noticed. But am I fulfilling their needs? Can I fulfill their needs? I never thought about that before entering the relationship. So I think that would be interesting for y'all if y'all actually, I can't do it because I'm already in one, but like actually figuring out if that person is going to fit your needs before you date them. We all have different need levels, and I find this interesting. So like the level of time that you require in a relationship, the level of effort that you require in a relationship. We all have different levels. So, like, for example, let's say I'm going to use me and my girlfriend as an example, but this is by no means accurate. This is just something that I'm thinking of on the fly, so forgive me. But let's say I need a 5 from my partner, which is so wild because that's not true, but let's just go with it. Let's say I need a certain amount of time. I only need 30 minutes a day, right? And the effort, I need constant effort. Let's just pretend. So it levels out to like a 5 in terms of time and effort that I need from my partner. And let's say Larissa needs an 8. If I can't meet that 8, I should not be with her because I can't give her what she needs. So, if you need a level 7, make sure that your partner can give you a level 7. If they need a level 4, make sure that you are able to give a level 4. Let's say they need a level 10. There are a lot of people out there. Granted, if you need a level 10, I need to talk to you because I need to ask you if you're in therapy first. But there are some people that are very clingy. They're very needy. They constantly question themselves. Hi, that's me. Not clingy and needy. I can be at times, but like I do need that reassurance, right? So like in reality, I would call myself maybe a level 7 or 8 because I do like my alone time. So let's say I'm like a level, let's just go with 8 because I do need a lot of reassurance. So I'm in level 8. I need to make sure that Larissa can meet my level 8 need. And if she can't, we're not going to work out because she can't meet that need. Let's say she's also a level 8. I need to make sure that I am in the condition to be able to give her a level 8. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is this is why you need to be healed before getting into a relationship. Because if your relationship requires a certain level of effort and you cannot give that level of effort, you are really going to struggle in your relationship. Relationships are so complex, and there is multiple sides to a relationship and multiple sides to a story, let alone side. Hi.
Hi. So, how long are we doing this?
An hour. I'm almost done. Hi, baby. Hey, Larissa, I have a question for you.
Oh, she's fun. Question. What's
It's going to be a
I'm
very
gonna mute
interesting
this.
question. It's going to be a very interesting question. If you were to give yourself a level of what you needed in terms of time and effort out of 10, what would that number be?
One more. Sorry, she's saying other things in my ear a second ago.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, if you were to rate your needs level of time and effort, how much do you think you need? Like, I think I'm a level 8 because where I don't always require time, I do require effort and reassurance. And I do balance between alone time sometimes, but I can be needy at times.
I'm probably a 10.
You're a 10! You heard it from her. You don't like alone time, Larissa?
Only after work.
Only after work. 9.5. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, honey. But is a 20.5.
What was that?
She needs
Here,
a lot of
ask
effort.
Amanda.
No, I'm recording. Go. Let me finish. Let me finish. That was cute for y'all. So now you know. She needs a level 10. And I need to be in the space to give her a level 10. She's not really a level 10, guys. She is pretty needy when it comes to time, but when it comes to effort, she's more of a level, I would say like 4 or 5, because she wants to be thought of. And it's like I could do the dishes when she says that like the dishes are just overwhelming her, and that's like all she needs. So in terms of time, yes, she's probably a 10, but in terms of effort, she's really a 4. But anyway, that kind of goes to show that sometimes we don't even realize our needs, and that we are needy. We think we are needier than we actually are. In her case, anyway. But I'm so serious. Like the level of effort, like I can have my alone time. And like she needs her alone time too sometimes, but she enjoys spending time with me. So I wouldn't call her a 10 in terms of effort and time, just in time. In effort, it would be more of a 4 because I feel like she does a lot more for me than I do for her. But she says that what I do for her is emotional more than like buying her things or giving her flowers or any of that jazz. So, anyway, it was just an interesting question concept. So, you guys got to see that. Or if you're on Apple, then you got to hear that. But let me backtrack to before when she walked in. Relationships are so complex, and there's multiple sides to the story, multiple sides to the relationship, and that everyone has their own side or perspective. And you kind of just saw that. Like, she had her own perspective on her needs level, and I had my own perspective. So that's just one example. But the outsiders, to you guys that just viewed that, you guys are going to build your own opinion and input on our relationship. Everyone does it. Like, you see a couple on Instagram and you're judging them in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's a good judgment, like, oh my God, they're so cute, or whether it's like, ew, or they're so needy, or whatever. Like, everyone has some form of judgment on other people. So, just saying. Now, let's get into a little bit more. Nothing forces you into a growth era like a breakup will, because you get to redefine yourself and who you are, and you actually spend time on yourself for the first time in a really long time. That like you get to see a glow up in yourself, first of all, and that's amazing. But you get to set the foundation for yourself all over again. And you can honestly tell that, like, after a breakup, usually the person is happier, they start to take care of themselves. Sometimes their aesthetic changes, whether it's major or minor. I like to dye my hair. I know a lot of people like to dye their hair. I've dyed my hair red, black, dark brown, blonde. Like, I go through all sorts of phases. But nothing forces you into a growth era like a breakup will, because with a breakup, you are literally figuring out your life again because you're figuring out who you are without that person. And I do just want to say um, that when you are jumping back into the dating pool, don't close yourself off to the world, because if your heart, your body, your gut, brain, intuition, whatever you want to call it, believes that the person is good for you when you're like getting to know people, um, don't let go of the opportunity to even get to know them. See how things go, see if you're ready to move on, see if they're ready to move on. But if you know you're not ready, like, communicate that before you even get there, get ready for something serious. And that comes from, like, me and Emily, for example. I didn't close myself off. I went to see how things went, and then I realized, like, I know that we've been talking for a little bit, but like, I can't do this. I realized XYZ. But then with Larissa, literally almost a year later was I actually ready to start dating. So that should give you a little bit of input on how long I actually worked on myself. But literally a year later, I started to see, well, okay, we were already dating literally a year later, but like 8 months later, 10, let's go with 10. 10 months later, was I not closing myself off to Larissa, and now she walks in on my podcast. Just goes to show that you shouldn't close every opportunity, because if you feel in your heart that they're meant for you, they just might be. I can't tell you no or yes if they are or if they aren't. That is only something you can tell. Um, so I don't know about y'all, but that was a lot to digest. And I have a couple things more, and they're just little tidbits that I want to tell you. When you break up with somebody and you accept the reality of that breakup and you move past that breakup, you tend to let go of your rose colored glasses for that person. This is a tidbit that I didn't mention before, because I wanted to have its own separate thing. And I'm kind of glad, because she ended up walking in probably about the time I would have said it. But there's a huge reason I talk about rose colored glasses, because they will occur again when you jump back into the dating pool. Now, rose colored glasses can happen at any point for any person. And y'all know what I'm talking about. You kind of almost accept certain things that you wouldn't normally accept because you like the person. And that's why I say you need to be fully healed, and you need to have mental check ins with yourself before you start dating somebody, because if they can't meet your needs and you can't meet theirs, it's not going to work out. And you can't pretend that they meet your needs if they don't, because that's rose colored glasses. You're not going to be happy. You're going to be blinded by certain things. And ultimately, sometimes that ends up being the reason you break up, is because you had those rose colored glasses and they just start to fall off in the middle of the relationship, because you realize that, like, this is not what you wanted. It happens. But going through the breakup and your rose colored glasses come off. So the tablet that I was reading off of that had all of my notes just shut off because I didn't charge it long enough. So we're going to take a little breather. Don't go anywhere because it'll literally be in the next clip, but now I have to pause. Okay, I'm so sorry about that, guys. Let's get back to the rest of it. I'm gonna make this as short and sweet as I can. because I still have a couple paragraphs. So, forgiving the person after a breakup is not throwing your worth or healing away, excusing their actions, forgetting what they did, nor forgetting how much you hurt, etc. Forgiving allows you to drop whatever grudge you have or whatever feeling you are holding on to and move on fully. So, forgiveness is very important when it comes to breakups and moving on and getting back into the dating pool. Forgiveness is somewhat of a selfish act because you are forgiving the person in order for you yourself to feel better within and move past the hurt, pain, etc. Because you are going to heal whether you forgive the other person or not, but forgiving can help you feel better within the process and during that time. Now, in terms of getting back into the dating pool, when you are starting to date again, make sure you keep away from bad habits and stick to your newfound worth. Don't always be the one to ask to hang out or put in all the effort. See if your levels of effort match one another, because that will show your need level if they can match, right? Be yourself fully, but don't sacrifice your standards or needs in the process. If you like being the initiator, no problem. It's okay to do so, but just keep in mind to see if that level of effort is reciprocated. Know your red flags and work on them and own them, and create a what I want in a partner list or a non-negotiable list. Those are my best tidbits for y'all for getting back into the dating pool, because those will really kind of give you insight into, is this new person right for me? And eventually I will have a podcast on dating red flags and dating green flags in like one podcast, like red and green flags together. And I'll have a list for y'all. But for now, this has been a long enough episode. Thank you guys so much for riding it out with me. I love you guys so much. And have a great night and day or whenever you're listening to this. And I will see you next week on Many Mistakes Ago. Love you guys.